What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Emotional Blossom Podcast. I am your host and co-founder and CEO, Jay Drip. And today I am here with the one and only
Bethany Echeveria.
So, Bethany, tell me one question. I want to ask you one question before we get started, before we get rolling the Emotional Blossom Podcast, where, we like to pry deep into emotions and kind of understand, like, what do you go through and how you go through certain emotions, so then the audience can take it and they can kind of do their own little spin, something that might be able to help, that is helping you out currently, with a certain emotion. The audience might say, oh, like, I'm really feeling that, but they don't see that light. They don't have that vision yet. And then you might be able to give them a little push, especially talking to the female audience about going through these emotions, being depressed, being happy, being sad, being whatever. Like, you gotta understand it. So tell me, who is Bethany?
Well, Bethany is about to turn 27 this Saturday. So I'll be 27 soon. I was raised in Lancaster, PA, and now I live in York. I don't like York, and I'm looking to come back to Lancaster. But I'm Puerto Rican as well, so that's a
Boricua.
deep-rooted connection within me. It's part of who I am. I'm very prideful about that. I love to participate in different Puerto Rican events or Latino events around town. I also really like to get involved with the community. As we were talking earlier, I've been working in human resources, so I like to be providing support for different people. Either it's my friends or at work, things like that. So I'm definitely that shoulder to cry on, and people turn to me for advice and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really that go-to person.
So I would say you like helping people out.
Absolutely.
You like to aid and help people out, depending on anything that you particularly like to work in, So obviously, like, human resources is a way of helping out. Like, somebody who wanted to be a nurse or a doctor still wants to help somebody out. So in that human resources, kind of that social world, So a lot of people don't know, but in college I worked as a DEI officer. So I worked within the DEI office, and I was their grad assistant for a little bit. So I was helping a lot of kids who would go on and to college. Lock Haven University is kind of in the middle of nowhere. So, you kind of miss them city ambulances, and sometimes that little bit too quiet kind of sets some people off, to not feel comfortable. So I was in charge of actually setting up a couple of different events here and there on, like, that will promote diversity, have that inclusion towards different types of people, whether it's Puerto Ricans, white people, African Americans, not even Africans, because there was a lot of people from different parts of Africa, to know their side, where they come from, kind of making feel at home. Because a lot of times, bro, like, a lot of them don't get to go home, So, like, some of them might live overseas, actually overseas, and they might not be able to go home, so they miss home. They're a little homesick. Next thing you know, they don't come back next semester. So that's kind of sad. So in that aspect, like, that's what I did. So I liked helping people out, but I also was very creative with it. Right? So hence why I started Emotional Blossom. And now we're selling our shorts and doing all these different types of things to kind of, like, boost the community and do what the community does. And obviously, keep building my company within everything. Tell me a little bit about what you go through, right? And let's take any random emotion.
Let's go through heartbreak.
Okay.
That's a common one and something that has happened to me recently. With heartbreak, that's something that you have to, like, there's so many ways that you can process it, and there's so many different things that you ask yourself, even as a woman, right? You ask yourself where you went wrong, if you could have done things differently, if you really gave it your all. And with that being said, it causes doubt, it causes you to question yourself, it causes a lot of, self-esteem issues as well when you're in, a relationship that's not really working for you. And when it comes to the heartbreak portion of it all, once you've finally decided that this is the end. I'm choosing myself. I want to do better for myself. It sucks because you're mourning someone that's still alive. You're mourning all of the dreams and the aspirations that you had of a future with this person. And now you're turning to a whole different idea of what your future is going to look like. So that's something that I've been going through recently in my life. I've been married, I've been divorced, even at my young age. So that's a kind of a reoccurring theme, unfortunately. But you live and you learn, and you learn different people. As I mentioned, putting yourself in their shoes and understanding why they are the way that they are is something big in a relationship. But I also feel that you can't get comfortable with that, because then you end up making excuses for that person of why they are the way that they are, and that they're just this way because of how they were raised or the things that they've gone through in their lives. But at some point, you also have to decide if you're going to continue that toxic behavior, or if you're going to be a better person and break the cycle.
Yeah, and that's a tough decision to make, regardless of what position you were in regards to, male or female, or male or female. Nowadays you can't really tell. Right. You can't really say, who is the pants in the relationship.
Right.
So sometimes you just gotta it's a tough decision to make, but do you think in those instances it's better to kind of just rip the Band-Aid off? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think it is best to...
Because, take it for example, like stopping, cold turkey. Like, per se, just cutting somebody off. I feel like that's not healthy, to a certain extent. But sometimes I was talking earlier to my wife, and I was actually telling her, she was telling me some things, and I was telling her that sometimes people just get sick. We talking about, celebrity drama. Some people, sometimes, you just get tired of it, and it just happens. It just stops, but you don't think about the mental part of it. How is it affecting somebody, in the mental part, when you have to kind of stop, because that goes to the age-long thing that I used to always say, love doesn't really die. You're always going to have love for somebody, but you're not going to, say, I love you anymore, because I don't love you. But, I still had love for you, so I feel like that's different. I still care, hope you're doing good.
Right.
But, for my sanity, for your sanity, we're not good, dog.
Yeah. I would say that in a relationship, especially on the woman side of things, I know that myself, I try to make it work as many times as I can. I try to communicate as much as possible the things that maybe I'm not liking, or the things that need to change, the things that could be done differently, or even having that open communication with your partner in order for you both to be on the same page about what your goals are in the future, what the life is going to look like together, and being aligned on that. And I think that as a woman, we do argue a lot, and we, nitpick at certain things, but it's out of a place of care and love. And I feel like when time passes and things are not changing, that's where it gets progressionally worse. And it gets to a certain point where it is best just to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, what did it say? If you keep doing the same thing over and over, it's just insanity.
Exactly.
Expecting a different result. I definitely understand where, and if you're communicating per se, you see it. Like I said, I telling my wife, people just get tired, and it just happens, You see it all the time, but you never have that inside, I always say, mind your business. Stay within your stuff and your relationship, and let other people be what they gotta be, per se. But going back to doing the same thing over and over again, that's why you gotta understand the certain emotions that you're having, and being I bet that I like to think when things are really bad, and like stuff is going all over the walls, and like you don't know what to do with the mess of life. You think about the good times, you know, the times that stuff was happy or wasn't moving in a positive direction, and you put that out into the world, and good karma hopefully comes back. You know, with emotional blocks, you got to understand that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I feel like. Anybody who wears my brand and like my shorts, the hoodies that we got, like this is one of the shirts too, but like I think it might still be on there. I'm not sure, but like we have shorts, we have a couple different shirts, we have hoodies that just came out, the new blooming season, which is like the blooming season collection, which is the blue shorts, the red shorts, the blue shorts, and then the hoodies to match, like the front and stuff. That's fire. But
that's cool.
So we have that. That's kind of like blooming season. Like this is the chance that we grow. You know, we work on ourselves to kind of develop and be the better self. You know.
Yeah, and I feel like also a lot of people go through a lot of traumatic events in their life, and they never fully process what they've gone through, or they never really take the time to analyze how this has affected them, or they just become a whole totally different person. You know, they become cold-hearted, they don't want to talk to anybody, they just become this brand new person and harden themselves in order to not talk about it or not confront that issue. So it's important in life that we have a support system around us as well, so that way we can be able to rely on one another and be able to find someone to talk to when you're going through these different things. And even I think it's cool with your merch because, you know, someone could come up to you and ask you, hey, what's your sweater all about? And then you'll be able to explain to them, hey, you know, this is a podcast that talks all about your emotions and how to handle them and how to become better, you know, 1% every single day. So that's really cool too.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of like, I don't want to say imposter syndrome because like I just been lazy. Like I feel like that's what it is when it comes to like certain things. I don't want to say lazy. I would say imposter syndrome is a good one, but not really. Like obviously, like people will tell me like, "Yo, that's a dope ass hoodie." I'm like, "Thank you." Like instead of being like, "Yeah," like in sparking that conversation,
right?
Just because sometimes I don't want to be sounding like I'm full of myself, you know.
Yeah,
so like a lot of the times, you know, the egotistical. You know me. You've known me for a long time, you know. But I was never really like the type of like I love doing creative stuff. Like, and don't get me wrong, like people like saying that, yo, this is good stuff and this is a good meaning. It makes me feel good, you know.
Definitely.
But at the same time, like I'm not really that egotistical type of person. Be like, yeah, like.
Yeah, that's like me when I first started up a small business as a career coach with all of my human resources experience from the past 10 years and everything. I was so nervous. I was like, you know, I don't want to oversell my services because I'm just starting out. I don't even want to charge my friends and my family for these services because who am I to charge them? You know, they're my friends and family. I'm just going to help them because it's my nature.
Yeah, because that's what you want to do. But you got to sometimes detach yourself from that. And that's hard, you know. That's understanding. And then with that comes a whole another type of emotions, you know. You got anxiety. You know, you don't want to bite off too much that you can't, like, too much, you know. That just opens a whole nother can. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely about the environment that you're in as well, because I was literally telling my friend earlier on the way here that Lancaster, just being in Lancaster gives me happiness, gives me hope, gives me peace in my heart. But being in York is like just toxic and like just it's like crabs in a
Hey, I tell you, listen, we ain't got no beef with no York motherfuckers. Listen, listen. We ain't got no beef. But
I'm talking about just the city in general. It's like anxiety.
Yeah, like you sometimes I can say the same thing about Lancaster, man. Look, listen, I gotta go to Las Vegas. I gotta go to Vegas. I gotta go to Florida. Take me to Florida.
I'm about to go to Florida.
You know, I'll go to LA or something.
That's fun.
But, you know, sometimes you gotta grow out your shell, you know.
Yeah.
And you never know, it might be better off for, probably was good. Maybe it
I
was
think
good
it
for you to
was
leave
good.
Lancaster. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
good
good
for
for you
me
to
to
come back
learn.
and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like exactly, like you learn.
I definitely learned a lot being in York, but like I said, I'm looking to come back. But aside from that, in terms of anxiety and different emotions that you feel on a day to day, even with the small business, like I mentioned, you do get that imposter syndrome. You do get that anxiety of being able to provide these services because now these people are now
Depending on
relying
you.
on you. Yeah. And, they're trusting you with in my case, with their personal information because I create resumes and I help them with interviews and stuff like that. So they're providing me with their work history, with their contact information, things like that. And I have to maintain professionalism. I have to make sure that I'm on top of my P's and Q's so that way my business is successful too. And then also, my friend and I have a side business with baking different Latino treats. So with that business, it's called Dos Raíces.
Listen, later on, like in another episode, I'm gonna taste test this desserts live on camera.
For sure. I'll bring you some flan. We'll bring you some. What else do we have? We have fresas con crema. We have a whole bunch of stuff. So
What
I'll
type
bring you.
of like it's just any like Hispanic?
It's mainly Puerto Rican, of course, because I'm Puerto Rican, and it's also Mexican and Honduran because my friend is Mexican and Honduran, and the both of us created this bakery for us to have
It's a
just
nice
something.
little,
To do.
nice little fusion.
Yeah, and not only just something to do, but some extra income on the weekends and things like that. So, yeah, we've been doing that as like a hobby for now, but we would like it to develop into something more.
That's dope. So tell me a little bit about when it comes to your small business, your first with career coaching and everything. Are you doing that now, like for sure? Or like, what are you doing?
I'm
Are you
looking
still open for business?
I am still open for business. I'm looking to restructure a little bit now that I have some extra free time. I'm looking to, work on the products that I'm putting out there, being able to advertise myself more for these services and just gain a bigger clientele. But yeah, I'm going to be actively working on that soon. So I am open for business. You can contact me for the services, but there's going to be a little bit of a revamp in process currently.
So give her a little bit. By the time the episode is out, make sure that. So what's your small business? Give yourself a little shout
Yes.
out. Go ahead. Let me
Okay.
know like so what is the business? What should
Mhm.
they expect?
Mhm.
Obviously you said professionalism. She's secure.
Mhm.
She's not gonna fraud you.
Mhm.
She's gonna make sure you have a nice job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me. Tell me. Tell me.
Sure. So, with the career coaching, my business is called Echeveria's Elite Employment. As I mentioned, we provide career coaching services in terms of resumes and CVs. We also do interview prep and help out with job searching and organization in terms of the job searching process. Additional to that, as I mentioned, professionalism is number one, making sure that your information is secure. And then on top of that, making sure that we're tailoring your information for your dream job. So even though you may have worked, some jobs that don't have the experience that this job that you'd really like is looking for, we can find a way to tailor those other job histories to reflect the skills that they're looking for in these new jobs. So it's really tailored for the person, depending on what they're looking for. It's really one-on-one interactive with that person. So
Yeah. Make sure y'all flood her with a whole bunch of I know you need a new job.
and a resume.
And y'all need a new resume.
Yes, for sure. That is something as a hiring manager that I was always looking at resumes 24/7. And there's nothing wrong with Indeed, but those Indeed resumes, they sometimes look a little, lack thereof in terms of information and stuff like that. So if you really go with a strong resume to your job interview or to, apply to a job, you're going to be more considered than some of the other candidates in the pool.
It's very important. I
Very
took a whole
important.
class on how to write my resume and my cover letter and all these different things. And it's a lot of work, and you don't want to do it yourself.
So might as well get Bethany to come and help you out with it.
Yeah. I'll do all the legwork. All you got to do is just give me the information.
And honestly, sometimes that's the only push you need. Somebody to help you out. And, Bethany, I appreciate you for, helping out and being that leg to a bunch of different people.
Thank you.
Out in the community. So do you usually just work in, so when it comes to the job search area is all over the place, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not centralized to a certain field or a certain type of jobs, and just in general.
Yeah, just in general, if you need a resume, let me know. Literally, I can do anything from entry level, mid level to executive positions. Depending on your experience, depending on what exactly you're looking for. Again, tailor made for you for the position that you're looking for. And it will definitely get eyes onto your resume from these hiring managers because there's certain keywords that they're looking for. There are certain skills that they're looking for with these jobs. And it's really important as well to read the job descriptions that you're applying for. A lot of people just be like, oh, well, this job title sounds great. I'll just apply to this. But again, having that skill match is going to get you seen faster in terms of in front of these recruiters and hiring managers.
Yep. Go ahead. Talk that talk, girl. Hey, she calling y'all broke. It's like, nah, just kidding. But nah, it always comes in helpful to have a solid resume on your side. Because a lot of the times, like, I do my own resumes, but if I showed you my resume, you'd probably be like, yeah,
having a simple resume is still better than not having a resume at all.
That is true.
Yeah.
Because then what if Bill Gates comes up to you on the street and says, let me see your resume.
And you're going to be like,
I don't have a resume. Call Bethany. She got you. She might not be able to get you that job with Bill Gates, but, Like
Echevarria's Elite Employment. Echevarria, Echevarria.
Put it right here.
Yes.
So then y'all can go ahead. All right. So moving on. Segue into your next business. I have a game that I want to play with you.
Okay.
So listen, ping pong back and forth. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So we're going to go top desserts.
Top desserts.
Desserts.
Flan.
Oh, so is that your number one?
Number one. For sure.
What type?
Vanilla is the best seller.
Just because it's the best seller don't mean it's the best.
Okay. What do you think the best flan flavor is?
Queso.
I make queso too.
Yeah. So like that cheese flan. Ooh, boy.
It is so creamy.
It's like cheesecake.
Yeah.
It's like cheesecake. The vanilla one is good. I like the vanilla one, but sometimes depending on who makes it, it comes out like too gelatin, like too much of like gelatin texture. So, but you cannot really mess up the queso one.
Yeah.
The only thing that you could do is probably cook it a little bit too much, and then it comes out like.
Have you made flan?
Yeah.
You want to join our business?
Nah, but my mom, she had her bakery, and we have a whole bunch of stuff downstairs to do bakery. So, but I would say, so you gonna say vanilla flan? I'm gonna say cheese flan.
For sure. I think the second top bestseller within our little business is tres leche cake.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a topic.
Popular.
So that's 3. I'm gonna go besito de coco.
We haven't made those yet, but that's a good idea. And then the third one is definitely probably the fresas con crema, which is more of like a Mexican dessert. It's more like milk based with strawberries in it, but it's really refreshing. Really,
is
good.
it like a cake or is
No.
it like a pudding-ish?
It is kind of like a pudding. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like a custard with strawberries.
Like custard-ish?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. My third, tembleque.
Yeah, tembleque is good too. And I can make that too, but I haven't had orders for that yet. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it definitely takes, I see my mom definitely take a lot of time to learn all the different, we made quesitos. I say quesitos top 5.
Mm-hmm. De guayaba.
We made a whole bunch of different things, like my grandma did too. And it's just like so many different good things. We made donuts there too. Like whole like learn to do a whole bunch of different things. But that segues on to your business. Your second business, your little side business, you make desserts.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a small bakery. It's called Dos Raíces. With that small bakery, it's based on my friend and I that we are bringing two cultures together, kind of three cultures, but she is Mexican and Honduran, and then I'm Puerto Rican. So we're bringing all of these mixes and blends of flavors together, and we're providing, pastries out into the world based on our culture and sharing that with everyone. With that being said, like I said, we sell a whole bunch of different pastries. We have a whole menu. We
What do you like to make? Like, there's different things. Like, obviously, there's something that sells a lot. Like I had said, and there's something that's kind of easy to make. Obviously, like I'm not gonna judge you if you say like the simple thing, So, like, what do you think?
I think honestly, I do love to make the flan, even though it's an extensive process.
That's why I ask, guys. The
Yeah.
flan, it takes forever, and if you mess up just a little bit, that's coming up fucked up, and then you
Yeah.
gotta start all over again.
Definitely, but I feel like we've perfected our flan recipe, so it still takes a long time, but the outcome is always the same. So that's we have consistency across the board. But I definitely enjoy making the flan. I feel like there's just something relaxing about baking in general. So I definitely just love. I feel like there's a passion there with the baking.
Yeah, something about just waiting like
2 hours.
2 hours. Should I forgot to put one extra egg? And then your shit just comes out fucked. Trust me, I only say that because I've been there.
And then you have to decorate it after all of that process.
It's a long process. Anybody who has a small business baking goods, hey, shout out to y'all because it takes creativity too. You can't just be any regular. I make vanilla cake. I just bake vanilla cake and sell it on the weekend. But like
And
anybody can make vanilla cake. Okay.
Do you remember that?
I'd be lying if I said I could.
Oh my goodness. They would bring a little cooler full of flan. They had always vanilla and queso.
I know that people used to like go door to door and sell like
Yeah.
different things. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember for a long time, Hogar Crea was like the main one because they were raising funds and it was $5 a flan every single time. $5 a flan. So those were good times back then. But now, prices are a little steep.
So tell me a little bit. So what are your prices? What do you?
Yeah, we do run different discounts and sales right now. Our flans, like if you want like a large flan, it would be like $30. If you want, we make minis as well. We also make choco flan. So depending on what you're getting, we can bundle it together and give you a deal. But yeah, we have like a whole menu with all of the pricing on it and everything.
That's
our
on your
page.
Instagram. You have an Instagram for them, right?
Yeah, we have an Instagram and a Facebook.
Make sure y'all. I'm gonna put that right here too, cause I know y'all big bags. I'm big bag festivities all. Hey, come join the party, my boy,
Yeah.
my girl.
Make sure to put your orders in as soon as possible.
Cause they getting booked up. Cause I know y'all big bags.
Yeah, for real.
Nah, but that's definitely great. To keep yourself moving, keep going like that 1% better every day, not being satisfactory with kind of like where you're at. Just keep getting 1% better of who you are as yourself. And that's something, I'm gonna be honest with you, like that is something that I've been trying to do myself when it comes to like even 1% better. You're baking, right? So you're getting in touch with yourself, and we talked about your involvement with like being Puerto Rican, right? And who you are as a person. And we both know like, we used to be in a dance group called Café. So we dance folkloric, and so like our passion is within like our culture, So that's something I've been trying to do lately, trying to get back into, my culture and who I am as a person back to, I was born in Puerto Rico. So it's like, I wish I could go back and like, it kind of always was the plan, when you leave Puerto Rico, you go and make a good life for yourself and then make enough good money to go back to home,
That's right.
So it's like I'm always looking for that way to continue to develop myself and the relationship that I have with, who I am as a person and my culture, per se.
Yeah. Over the past like 2 years, I've been heavily involved in different Latino events within York and Lancaster and Harrisburg and surrounding areas. And it just creates such a sensation additional of pride. You know, we always talk about Puerto Rican pride, but it just heightens it when you're experiencing it with a group of people that have the same passion as you. And I remember I went and I took a trip to, I think it was DC, and there was a big Honduran festival going on. And I love me a side quest. So I went to this Honduran festival and I had a blast. So even just learning about different cultures and learning about, you know, their traditions, their experiences, and how similar we all are as Latinos as well in some of those cultures and traditions is just beautiful. And I feel like every different nation has their own pride within their own, you know, country and everything. So I think it's beautiful to learn and see that melting pot coming together of
That's huge.
all
Yeah.
those cultures.
Yeah, definitely like seeing the difference, you know, and the similarities. You're kind of like, for example, like Puerto Ricans, Dominicans is like the obvious one, you know, but then you don't know how like similar the Middle Eastern culture is towards like Latin culture, you know, and certain beliefs and certain ideologies, you know. So even down to the language, you know, it might be something that you might talk about that you're like, yo, like that means the same thing, you know. So going out and experiencing different things is huge because that brings you in contact with yourself. And I always like to keep an open mind regardless of the culture, the religion, the emotions that somebody is feeling, you know. Somebody's happiness is their happiness, you know, that you don't have no right to say that shouldn't make you happy, you know. So to each their own, you know. Same thing with culture, same thing with the way that anything is nowadays.
Yeah. But I definitely would love to go back to Puerto Rico as well. That is my dream. I feel like in my heart there's something that's just calling me back to Puerto Rico. And I have visited. I have had the fortune to visit over the past few years a few times. And every time you're there, it's just like it's home. You know, it just
You leave
feels,
with tears.
yeah, it just feels different. And then you have to leave and it's like, no. But yeah, I really would love to return back to Puerto Rico and live there full time if the chance were available.
I feel like that's always been the goal for like ever since I was little. Like just go to the United States and make some good bread and hopefully you become a professional athlete. Didn't happen for me. But, you know,
It's never too late.
hey, I don't know, man. It's pretty late. Nah, but hey, never say never.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be a professional like gamer. Just watch
That
out for
sounds
me.
great.
I got practice later. I'm gonna get on the game and play some COD.
Oh my goodness.
But no, like I feel like that's always been the goal. You know, make enough money that you make a good living, retire yourself. You know, and then go out to Puerto Rico and live your life. You know,
Eat good food, live off the land. That would just be a dream come true.
So then, what is your small business Instagram again?
The baking one is Dos Raíces Delicia.
That will be right here as well. We're not going to spend time on spelling that. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything that you want to ask me that you've been curious about Emotional Blossom?
What has been the biggest emotion that you find yourself going throughout the years? Like a reoccurring emotion that you just continue to face throughout the years?
An emotion that I faced throughout the years? That's a good question. Personally, you know, I want to say that I try to keep everything positive, you know, but, you know, I would be lying if I didn't say that sometimes the dark thoughts, you know, they kind of linger in your mind a little bit. But that's per se why I use music a lot of the times, to kind of calm myself. And, you know, sometimes you go through bad emotions and you just got to face them and you go through them. I would say an emotion, if creativity was an emotion, it always goes through my head, even though sometimes I don't follow through with certain things, you know, as probably much as I should, you know, as much stuff that I think about and kind of jot down and start doing and then stop. You know, Emotional Blossom was one of those things that actually got off the ground, you know, and from me learning how to make things go, you know, Because a lot of the times, great ideas are thought of every day. It just really depends on what you do with it. You know, if you start rolling with it, I would say an emotion that I have every day would probably be like inspiration, creativity, inspiration. The most emotion that I feel is positivity and like inspiration from like other things,
Yeah.
you know, and to always kind of rework something to make it myself. I don't want to say regret, but like fear regret.
Yeah.
That's close second. How about you?
That's very real. For me, I would say my number one would be optimism, which is kind of the same thing that you said. I feel like no matter what I'm going through, I always find a silver lining. I always find a reason, why this is happening or why, this is a good thing happening in my life. Like even sometimes I'll be stuck in traffic and I'll just be like, thank you, God, for putting me in this traffic because who knows if I would have been going faster, I might have gotten into a car accident. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Optimism is a beautiful, 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 beautiful emotion. I think that that's one of the number one things, and that goes hand in hand, like you had said, with inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good one.
Yeah, that's definitely my number one. And of course, on the flip side, you go through your sad moments, you go through, doubting yourself, you go through all of these other things. But I feel like optimism is like that number one. I've always been a very positive person, trying to overcome everything and just come out better at the end.
Yeah, I feel like that's huge
Mm-hmm.
to definitely come out better in the end. You know, like you survived your storm.
Yeah.
You know, so tell me, Bethany, the last question that I have for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of a question I also have for the audience, right? To think about in yourself and like really think within yourself. With now what you know about emotional blossom, what is emotional blossom for Bethany, right? So you kind of have heard me talk. You know, you're on the podcast now, so you've seen the Instagram reels, all these different things. You've seen the brand statement, kind of like what we stand for, what we achieve, what we want to achieve, build a community, a safe community
Mm-hmm.
where emotions are understood, you know, analyzed. And it's not easy. You know, a lot of the times that those emotions are the things that are holding somebody back, you know, and that's not easy to kind of swallow, you know. So now that you know all the brand statement and so on forth, what is emotional blossom for Bethany?
I think that emotional blossom to me is exactly how you said, a safe space where people can resonate with other human beings that are going through similar things, or that, you don't feel so alone in the world. I feel like, nowadays society kind of isolates everyone. There's always a competition type of mentality when it comes to comparing yourself to others. But sometimes, even on social media, you hide the real stuff that's going on behind the scenes. You want to make it look like your life is going great. You want to make it look like, you've got everything that you've ever wanted in your life. But I think it's important to also have a space where you can talk about the bad stuff, talk about the real stuff that actually happens. And I feel like finding similar people that have gone through the same things, or that are also achieving to come out of these things, gives other people the motivation to also see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that that's really amazing for Emotional Blossom to be able to portray out into the world.
And little by little, view by view, follower by follower, subscriber by subscriber. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, on Instagram. Make sure you shop Emotional Blossom. The emotionalblossom.shop is the website. I'll make sure that is right here. Right here. Make sure y'all cup up. We just dropped the Bloomin' Season collection, which is the red shorts and then obviously the blue shorts. And then some hoodies too with two different designs. One, the hoodie has a blue flowers. The other one has red flowers. So it's kind of different. But make sure, honestly, Bethany, you hit that right on the nose on what we want to imply and what we want to build our community with that foundation. You know, if anybody who wears Emotional Blossom understands, like, you know, feel open to talk to somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and even if it's to yourself
or if it's to us, or if it's to a professional, you know.
Sometimes you need that.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, understanding that there's nothing wrong with that. Our community understands it, and we're there for each other within the community. But that concludes our episode with the one and only Bethany. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and explaining to us how you go about certain emotions, and, you know, telling us about your businesses and how they help people, who you are, and being a person who aids other people, you know, and supports so many different other things, especially supports small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I'm talking to you right there. Support the small businesses. Go get you some flan. Go get you a job resume, because I know you need it. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.